How are you doing after, a little bit of a rough start?
You never have to worry about me, promise. Okay, I'm great. It's a long season. It's obviously, of course, not the way that you ever want to start things, but I love this group of guys. I love the way that they've bounced back this week. We had a bonus day this week. We had an extra day where we came in and got out on the grass earlier in the week, and they were great. So it's a long season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I don't want to diminish the fact that that was definitely not the way we want to start, but guys came back in and have had a great week, great 2 days, really 3 days with the bonus day that we had earlier in the week, and we're on to the Detroit Lions.
Can I ask you a play to throw about Sunday?
Sure.
You probably saw the clip. After the game, Sean Payton said on that 4th and 7 in the second quarter, when he threw a little screen off to the right-hand side,
Yep.
he said, I thought that they would be in a zone because based on what the Rams used to do. I mean, is that true? Is that what this comes down to in this business sometimes?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, it's always, he's thinking what we're thinking. I'm hopefully thinking what he's thinking. That was a hell of a call. It really was. Because I thought actually playing man there would have thrown him off a little bit. But that was a tight end screen was, it was a hell of a call. And at that point in the game, it was, 10-0. And at midfield, it was, I was a little shocked with, because they ran the ball the play before. And I thought they were just going to be somewhat content with, punting the ball and getting into halftime. But yeah, it was, I'll definitely give credit where credit was due. It was a hell of a call on their point.
Like a league high or everybody going on 4th down?
Well, I have noticed, I do a little, especially early in weeks, I do a little, league-wide study. And I think, I think also when you play against a guy like Aaron too, they want to maybe try to steal a possession, for example, So, but I have noticed that in especially opening week, there were a lot of teams that, successfully did go for it on 4th down. And, something we always got to be ready for.
Joe, how ready do you think Rashawn is for that elevated role with Z now out for the next couple of weeks?
I think Rashawn, I've been so, no, I mean, I thought he was a hell of a player coming out. We obviously did extensive work on him, when I was at my other place. So I knew all about him, and he's a hell of a player. But just being around him every single day, the way he works, he's a really an unbelievable leader in his own way for a young guy. So, to answer your specific question, it's a bummer that we won't have Z, but I think Rashawn, I think Preston, I think Jonathan Garvin, I think all those guys are ready to go, and it will be great for both Rashawn and Preston to, get going. I thought Preston Smith, just to jump into Preston, I know you specifically asked about Rashawn, but I think Preston played, really consistent and physical football for us the other day.
Do you have enough pass rush, though, without Z, without you going to go create it?
Yeah, I like to think so. I think, Kenny Clark is, again, as coming in brand new, I always thought Kenny was kind of just a run-stopping defensive tackle. I've been pleasantly surprised in my short time with Kenny that, he has some pass rush ability. I think, Kiki is, I think that's one of the qualities that he has. And then, Dean in his own right, in his unique way as a big, powerful man, he can affect the pocket. So, yeah, I think, of course, when you lose a guy like Zadarius Smith, what he brings to us from a physicality standpoint, then obviously a pass rush standpoint, when you lose a player like that's a big deal. So, but it is what it is. We want him to get back whenever he can, and in his absence, we're going to have to step up and create some things. But it's great opportunities for a bunch of guys to be able to go show what they got.
What are the challenges a guy like Hawkinson presents? It looked like from week one that Goff really looked to him quite a bit.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times I think it's very natural for quarterbacks to kind of have their comfort, their I don't want to say security blanket, but guys that they feel they have a really good rapport with. Obviously Jarrett had that with, for example, like with Cooper Kupp in LA the last handful of years. I already can see that and feel that 16 and 88 have that in just the short time that they've been playing together. Jarrett had that in Tyler Higbee a little bit too in LA, from the specific tight end position. But when you talk about that tight end, I mean, he's a really, really good player. Obviously, he was highly touted coming out, high draft pick. But thing I respect most about his game is that in this day and age, a lot of times, big time tight ends are basically glorified big wideouts. I like all the dirty work that this guy does because they ask him to do a lot in the run game, both as an inline tight end in a three-point stance, but then also all the things that they ask him to do behind the line of scrimmage, sifting back and cutting defensive ends and outside backers. So I think he really is he's a complete tight end. There's no doubt about it because he blocks, he runs great routes, he catches. And then, as I said, I think Jarrett has a really, really high comfort with him.
And what's your message to your guys, having worked with Jared Goff, about facing him on Monday night?
I'll keep the things that I've said to our team private, but I do know Jarrett very well. We've spent the last 4 years together in LA and had a lot of fun together, and I got all the respect in the world for Jared Goff, both as a football player, as a guy. So it will definitely be weird seeing him, up close and personal in a different uniform, definitely a Lion uniform. But I think anytime that you have that familiarity with, especially a player that you've spent a lot of time with, with a previous team, I think there's subtle little insights that I've been able to give to our guys.
Anything else in the room? Sarah, let's go to Zoom.
Okay, we have two in here. We'll go ahead, Aaron Nagler.
Coach,
What's up, Aaron? How are you, man?
I'm well, man. How are you?
Good.
On Sunday, we saw on several occasions your corners playing well off the line of scrimmage on early downs, not on third down, but on early downs.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to square that with what the philosophy is there, because we know Jair is one of the best in the business. Kevin King, we've heard Brian and Matt both talk about how his best ability is getting up in guys' grills.
Yeah.
Yet, again and again, we see guys 5, 8, 12 yards off. What's the philosophy there? Why?
Yeah, I think Sunday's game was a little unique in the sense that, I think any time that, number one, you have a game where, we had to defend, I think we defended, they ran the ball 40 times. So again, from a corner perspective, when you get into just alignments and feel and flow of the game, especially defending the passing game, you love to be able to give corners the freedom to mix their alignments up, whether they play off, whether they, get in and play press. And unfortunately, I just don't think it ever got into one of those flows in the game where, they were able to mix it up. And, I think every coverage is subtly different based on, whether you're playing man, what type of zone you're playing, to be able to go change your alignments up. But I do agree. I think the advantage that we have, not only with Ja and Kevin, but, Eric as well, they're fully capable, and, especially with, Ja from a skill set, but then also with Eric and Kevin with their their big long corners that can, for lack of a better term, get in a receiver's grill and get after him. So we definitely, allow them to do that. We want them to do that. We give them those change-ups. Unfortunately, it wasn't one of those types of games that they were able to really do that.
Tom Silverstein?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Rod, how are you?
Good, thanks. On maybe 3 or 4 of the touchdown plays, it appeared to be there was either some kind of miscommunication or misplay in the secondary. What do you attribute that to? Do you think it's some guys still grinding through the system, or was it just personal, mistakes? What did you see, and what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I tell the guys all the time that, those, if there's a mistake out there, it's on me. And number one reason, I want those guys to be able to go, play fast. But it does start with communication. And, I think that was the absolute first time that a lot of us were, in that situation together, playing the game together, communicating together. But yeah, I don't necessarily think there was large communication breakdowns. There was just some, they did a good job, and we'll learn from it. And I promise you, we'll be better moving forward.
Go ahead, Ryan Woods.
I just wanted to follow up on the coverage question that Aaron asked. Do you leave that to the corners, how far off the line of scrimmage to play? Is that relayed from the sideline, or if it's a combination of the both, how do you determine who's got the say in those circumstances?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's completely, it's based on down and distance. It's based on split. It's based on, coverage principle and philosophy that, we have called, whether you're playing 2 deep, 3 deep, quarters, man. There's a lot of things that go into that. And then, we also do give based on, who the wide receiver they're lining up across from. We do give our corners the freedom to be able to go and press or play off. But of course, there's, down and distance is the biggest thing that's going to determine that. Especially when you get into third downs and things like that, you're going to have to be much, much more aggressive. So it's a combination of game plan. It's a combination on, the personnel specifically on who that corner is covering. But then also, coverage principle and down and distance. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But absolutely, it's a well strategic, thought out plan. I've said since I've been here, Jerry Gray's is as good as it gets. Ryan Downard and myself, working with those guys. Those guys do a great job with those guys. So, but there's a lot of things that go into, as far as the individual technique that goes into each play with a corner covering a wide out.
And last one, Stacey Dales.
Sarah, thanks.
Hi, Stacey.
Hey, Coach. I know you don't want to share some of the little insights about Jared Goff, but I just have to follow up. You know him as well as anybody on the staff. When is he at his best, and how does he look different just in the small sample size? I mean, he put up a bunch of yards against a pretty good Niners defense, right? What can you tell us about when he's at his best, and maybe how he looks different in a Lions uniform?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, but I mean, Jarrett's, guy was the first player taken in the NFL draft. I don't know how many games we won together in LA, but it was a lot. I mean, the guy is. I would argue in the last 5 years he's probably won. He's probably in the top 3 or 4 as far as quarterbacks, as far as wins. I don't know if you guys could quickie stat that, but he's won a lot of football. He's thrown for a lot of yards, and I was able to, at least the last 4 years, witness all of it. I think it's definitely, at least for me, it's difficult to compare because now with the blatant obvious with him being in a different uniform, You know, he's in a different system. He's working with a different play caller. He's obviously working with, you know, a different offensive line, a different receiving core. You know, I mentioned before, I think the one thing I think that him and TJ have are you know, a great rapport. But I mean, those are things, he's in the infant stages of an offense, a brand new offense, but he definitely did from, I mean, when you look at the end of the game there, you know, Jarrett's like a great basketball player that, you know, in the fourth quarter gets hot and they get streaky. He definitely has that in him, and he did that in the fourth quarter against the Niners, bringing them back, you know, within 8 points. So, but I got a, you know, Jarrett's a friend of mine, and I think he's a heck of a kid and a heck of a player, and you know, we're gonna get after his butt and compete, but I think he's a phenomenal kid and a phenomenal talent.